A very good morning to all my students. I welcome you all in this session. In the last lecture, we have discussed regarding the female reproductive organ. Now we will continue the same topic in this session as well. Now, these are the various organs that we have already discussed in the last lecture. In that, uterus is there, uterine tube is there, and the ovary is there. Now in this session we will start with the another organ called cervix. Now cervix is the narrow lower neck of the uterus which projects into the vagina inferiorly. Means vagina is there at the inferior position and at the superior position there is uterus. Cervical canal cavity of the cervix that communicates with the vagina via external os and uterine body via the internal os. Os means opening, os or os. So externally it will combines with vagina, and internally at the superior position it will combines with the uterus. Cervical glands secretes mucus that covers the external os and block sperm entry except during mid-cycle. The secretory cells of the mucosa of the cervix produce a secretion called cervical mucus. It is a mixture of water, glycoprotein, lipids, enzymes and inorganic salts. During the reproduction, female secretes 20 to 60 ml of cervical mucus per day. Cervical mucus is the more hostile to sperm at or near at the time of ovulation because it is then less viscous and more alkaline. At other times, more viscous mucus form a cervical plug that physically impede sperm penetration. Cervical mucus supplements the energy needs of sperms, and both cervix and cervical mucus protect sperm from phagocytes and the hostile environment of vagina and uterus. In vagina and uterus, it is very acidic in nature. That's why they are killing the sperms. The cervical mucus may also play a role in capacitation. It is a series of functional changes that sperm undergo in the female reproductive tract before they are able to fertilize as secondary oocytes. Now here you can see this is the external os which opens into the vaginal tract, and this is the internal os which opens into the uterus or uterine body. This is the portion which is called as cervix. This is the narrow portion which is next to the uterus. It is in between uterus and vaginal tract. Now next organ is vagina. It is an important organ of female reproductive system. It is a thin walled tube lying between the bladder and the rectum. It is a membranous thin walled. It is extending from cervix to the exterior of the body. It is having the size of 10 cm. It is long fibromuscular canal lined with the mucous membrane that extend from exterior body of uterine cervix. It is the receptacle for penis during sexual intercourse. Means this is the area where the penis is going to be received. It is a receptacle. Penis is entered into the vagina during sexual intercourse, and it will release the sperms into the passage of vagina or cervix. And it is also the place for outlet of menstruation cycle, and it is also the place where the childbirth will occur. It is a passageway for childbirth or delivery. It is situated between the urinary bladder and rectum. The vagina is directed superiorly and posteriorly where it attaches to the uterus. A recess is called as fornix. So this recess is called as fornix, which is exterior toward the cervix. At the both the sides it has been spread, so it is called fornix. The mucosa of the vagina is continuous with that of the uterus, and the mucosa near the vaginal orifice forms an incomplete partition called hymen. So what is hymen? So this hymen is nothing but a thin vascularized membrane, mucous membrane. It is very thin membrane of mucus which is having lots of blood vessels, vasculars, and it forms a border around the partially closed inferior end of vaginal opening to the exterior vaginal orifice. This hymen in maximum females it is partially closed, and during the first sexual intercourse it will completely open. The membrane is going to be cut and during the sexual intercourse, and due to which it will completely open. But in some condition it is completely closed. That condition is called as imperforated hymen. So that is the condition when the hymen is completely closed, and due to which the menstrual flow doesn't go outside, doesn't come outside. So in that condition we have to do the surgery of that hymen, due to which the menstrual flow will come out easily at the time of puberty. The walls consist of three coats: fibroelastic adventitia, smooth muscle muscularis, and the stratified squamous mucosa. It consists of non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium and areolar connective tissue that lies in the series of transverse fold, and that folds are called as rugae. As we have discussed rugae in case of stomach, also we have discussed that rugae in case of small intestine also, and also in case of urinary bladder also. So the rugae is there. So it is responsible for the movement, the upward and lower portion, depression grooves. So they will form the rugae. The dendritic cells of mucosa are antigen presenting cells. Now vaginal fornix is the upper end of vagina surround the cervix, which I already discussed. Now female external genita, it is also called as vulva. So vulva refers to the external genita of the female, and this vulva makes all these following elements which form by this vulva: vulva, vulva. It is also called as pudendum, pudendum, pudendum or vulva. So mind it well, vulva, vulva. It is very easy word, vulva. All these elements in mons pubis, labia, majora, minora, clitoris, bulb, vestibule and perineum, all will come under the category of vulva. So the mons pubis, it is a fatty pad. It is prepared of adipose tissues are there, fatty pads over the pubic symphysis. So it is called mons pubis. And elevation is there of adipose tissue which is covered by skin, and coarse pubic hairs are also there. Pubic hairs and cushion on the pubic symphysis has been developed. Labia majora and minora. So labia majora, minora, they are the folds of skin encircling vestibule where the find urethral and vaginal openings. From the mons pubis, two longitudinal folds of skin called labia majora extend inferiorly and posteriorly. The singular term is called labium majus. The labia majora are covered by the pubic hair and contain an abundance of adipose tissue. It is also having lots of adipose tissue, sebaceous glands, and apocrine suboriferous glands. It is also called as sweat glands. They are homologous to the scrotum. This labia majora are homologous to the scrotum. The medial Medial to the labia majora are two small folds, means inside the labia majora is external portion, and just behind the labia majora at the inferior part there is labia minora. So they are the small folds of skin called labia minora. The singular term is called as labia minus. Unlike the labia majora, the labia minora are devoid of pubic hair. They don't have any pubic hairs, but they are having fats, and they have few subauriferous glands, means they are having some sweat glands, but they do not have any sebaceous glands. The labia minora are homologous to the spongy urethra or penile urethra. As compared with the males, they are having same structural development of glans urethra or spongy urethra. Now next element is clitoris. It is a small mass of erectile tissue. As we know, it contains corpora cavernosa muscle, as it is in penile urethra also. It is a small cylindrical mass composed of two small erectile bodies. It is also responsible for erection, for sexual arousal. If this part has been touched or it has been pressed, it will induce the sexual desire, sexual urge will produce. So it is a cylindrical mass composed of two small erectile bodies. The clitoris is located at the anterior junction of labia minora. A layer of skin called prebus of clitoris is formed at the point where the labia majora unite and covers the body of the clitoris. It is exposed portion of clitoris is called glans clitoris. The clitoris is homologous to the glans penis, as we have already discussed in males, and it is responsible for the sexual excitement in case of females. Now next is bulb of vestibule. It is a mass of erectile tissue just deep to the labia on either side of the vaginal orifice. Actually, the vestibule is the typical region which covers the labia minora. Within the vestibule are the hymen. Hymen we have already discussed. It is the thin membranous part of mucosa, and it is responsible to cover the internal os. The vaginal orifice, the external urethral orifice, and the opening of ductus of several glands. The vestibule covers the major 3-4 parts, that is hymen, vaginal orifice, the external urethral orifice, and the opening of ducts of several glands. So this part is called as vestibule. The vestibule is homologous to the membranous urethra of male. So whatever membranous urethra is there of male, it is homologous to that. The vaginal orifice, the opening of the vagina to the exterior, occupies the greater portion of vestibule and is border of hymen. Now the perineum. Perineum is the area between the vagina and the anus. It also occurs in case of males. It is the area between the penis and the anus. Perineum. It is a diamond-shaped area medial to the thighs and buttocks of both males and females. It contains the external genitals and anus. It contains both the parts. The perineum is bounded anteriorly by the pubic symphysis and laterally by the ischial tuberosities, and the posterior by the coccyx. The transverse lines drawn between the ischial tuberosities divides the perineum into anterior urogenital triangle that contains the external genitals and the posterior anal triangle that contains the anus. Now here we will again discuss which part is called as what, that you will clarify what part is called as what. That you should know. In the anatomy physiology, the figure is very important, and in that figure what part is called what. So this is the labia majora. This is the external fold which is attached to the thighs, and it is having the cushion like structure. It is made up of the adipose tissues, fats is there deposited. Now after that, this is the labia majora, which is internally attached to the cervix part, internal part. So it don't have any hairs, whereas this majora is having the hairs, pubic hairs are there, and it is thin as compared with the majora, and it is the opening of this vestibule part. It is a vestibule part. This vestibule part contains the clitoris. Before, above the clitoris, it is a pubis of clitoris, and this is the clitoris part. It is a small P-shaped part, also smaller than P, and it is a part for excitation. And just below that clitoris, it is the urethral orifice. It is the urethra of female. That's why the female, after the marriage, they are having problem of pain during urination, or the urinary infection may occur at the starting period of the marriage or during the sexual period. So this part is going to be damaged sometimes. So that's why this is the location of urethral orifice. And just below this is the hymen. This is the thin walled of mucous membrane hymen, which is partially closed sometimes, and it will open, it will rupture after the sexual intercourse, first sexual intercourse. That's why it is also the symbol of the sexual intercourse has been occurred or not occurred. That can be, nowadays it can break due to the exercise, also due to the athletics. When they are doing more exercise, they are doing more working, due to that also it may break, but sometimes it can called. Now vaginal orifice is there, and this part is called as perineum. The part between the vagina and the anus, this part is called as perineum. And this is the opening of duct of greater vestibular glands. So in this fashion, we have come across with all the parts of this female reproductive organ, how they looks externally. Now Barthone's gland. The Barthone's glands are located on the each side of the vaginal opening. They secrete the fluid that helps lubricate the vagina. So they will lubricate the vagina during the sexual intercourse. So to avoid the friction, it will secrete that secretions which lubricate the vagina. Sometimes the duct of these glands becomes obstructed fluid, and in that condition the vagina may become dry, and due to that dry vagina there may be the pain during the sexual intercourse, and it may also get converted into the fungal infection, which sometimes may develop into the vagina due to the dryness of that vagina. That's why the regular cleanness should be there, especially during the menstruation. We should maintain the personal hygiene. Personal hygiene should be there. Properly it should clean, properly it should wash that area. The fluid backs up into the glands and causes the swelling. Now this is the another part of, or another organs, or another accessory organs of female reproductive organ, which is called mammary glands. They are modified sweat glands that produce milk, lactation. The amount of adipose determines the size of breast. Actually the lactation, the milk production occurs due to the hormone prolactin, which can be secreted from the pituitary gland, and it can be accompanied by the that hypothalamus, which secrete the gonadotropin releasing hormone. And the development of this mammary gland also occurs due to the one important hormone, it is called as estrogen. Estrogen is the major hormone which is responsible for development of breast in case of females. So at the time of puberty there is a high level of estrogen in case of females, teenagers especially in the teen age, and it continue during the reproductive cycle of the female up to the age. And during cancer also, the estrogen overproduction of or secretion of estrogen is responsible for breast cancer. The pink ribbon is specially for breast cancer, and we had to produce the awareness among all the females regarding this breast cancer. Nowadays it is very common due to our lifestyle, due to our the various food habits, diet habits, and less exercise. And also one fashion is there in some females that they are not lactating to their kids, to their infants, so that there will be effect on their figure. They are thinking that it is very bad thinking. Whenever any female is going to be childbirth has been occurred, she must give feeding, she must feed to the kid. That is very compulsory. You should spread this awareness all. That is also one of the reason for breast cancer. So milk secreting glands are opened by the lactiferous ducts of the nipple. From the nipple, there are 6 to 7 orifices are there from the nipples, and from where the milk will comes out by pressing. The alveola is pigmented area around the nipple, and it is a natural habit, default habit in infants. Whenever they will come out from the female genita, they will immediately start to suck the nipple, and by sucking, the negative feedback mechanism will work, and immediately the secretion of milk will occur, ejection of milk will occur due to the hormone estrogen, due to the hormone oxytocin and progesterone. Here the role of progesterone is there for secretion, for ejecting the milk. There is the hormone of oxytocin, it is responsible. And for production, role of prolactin. Don't forget, don't confuse between prolactin. Prolactin is the hormone which can be secreted from the pituitary gland, from the anteropituitary gland, and it is responsible for production of milk. And ejection of milk occurs due to the oxytocin, which can be secreted from the posterior pituitary. And also there is one hormone, progesterone. Progesterone is also responsible for ejection of milk. Now suspensory ligaments suspend breast from the deep fascia of pectoral muscle. Aging and Cowper's droop. Mammary lines is the thickened ridge of embryonic tissue that extend from the axilla to the groin. Now here you can see these are the alveola, these are the ducts, this is the alveola, and this in alveolus the ducts are there which carries the milk towards these lacteocytes, from where they are here. From the nipples, the baby or the infant will suck the milk, and it will production will occur here, and they will release through the ducts. Whether ducts are there, they will release. And in case of breast cancer checking, after each 7 days one should check the position, and one should go for the, if any pain occurs into this breast, any area of breast, or if any nodules has been formed, if any nodules or any hardness is there, if any what you can say, any stone like hardness, hard cells, thick cells has been formed in any area of breast, because this breast, no any hard area is going to be developed. If it is developed, it is abnormal, and along with that, if pain is developed, definitely there may be problematic condition. So if in early days if you will treat breast cancer, it is very easy to treat, but in the later stage it is nothing but the life threatening. Now here the prolactin from the pituitary glands stimulates the synthesis of milk. Oxytocin from the posterior pituitary gland stimulate the ejection of milk. Fix it in your mind, don't forget, prolactin for production, oxytocin for ejection. So both the things are important. From here ejection will be there, and here the production due to the prolactin. So here are the prolactis major muscles are there here, and the pectoral fat pads are here. The fat pads are, they are protecting, then they are positioning, give positioning to these glands for their production, and there are lobes of the mammary glands where the production of milk will there occurs, and there are the ducts which they carries the milk, and from the nipples they will come, and there are the lactiferous sinuses which is work as a lymph gland, because lots of waste materials, lots of transportations, and also they are providing for killing the bacteria and viruses which can enter through the nipple. So in this fashion, and also it can protect the kids, because from the milk of the female they are containing lots of enzymes, lots of the immunomodulators which will build up the immunity of kids. That's why for the first 3 days whatever the milk is there, the milk is more viscous and more sticky. So that milk is very essential for the kids, because it contains lots of multivitamins, it contains lots of minerals, it contains lots of immunity builders which boost the immunity of the kids. They are preparing the kids for fighting against the various microorganisms, various pathogens. The lymph nodes draining breast located in the axilla. So they are supplied with these lymph nodes from both the sides. Actually this is the lymph area is there, lymph nodes are present here in this area, and also in the inguinal regions near the thighs. These are the two positions, and also it is circulated along with the breast as well. Now oogenesis. You might be aware of that oogenesis is start before birth also, and there are lots of oocytes are there into the females. During the fetal development, oogonia divided by the mitosis to make primary oocytes. The primary oocytes begin meiosis and stop in prophase 1 until puberty will occur. This process of oogenesis will start from the oogonium. The primary follicles which support cells that surround the oocytes in the ovaries. There are almost 2 millions are present. 2 millions is not 2 lakhs. 2 millions are there at the beginning, at the birth, and they will decrease after few months. They will decrease in the numbers, and 4 lakh remain at puberty. But out of them only 400 to 500 is go for the maturity. And how the process of this oogenesis occurs, that we will see here. So each month hormones causes several follicles to develop, which triggers the primary oocyte to resume meiosis 1. And the polar bodies. What are the polar bodies? Polar bodies, when the cells divides, all the cytoplasm and organelles stay with one of the new cells, and the other cells are just DNA, and it is called polar bodies, and it is discarded. So polar bodies is not our point of interest. They are discarded. They undergo the degeneration. Secondary oocytes, the stage at which the ovulation occurs. The secondary oocyte begins meiosis 2nd but stops in the metaphase 2, and the secondary oocyte is ovulated. The meiosis is completed only it is fertilized. If the sperm will join at that time only, it will continue the meiosis 2nd, and the zygote will form, and the zygote will carry it toward the fallopian tube for the implantation. Toward the uterus it will go. The process of oogenesis will occur in this fashion. So first there is twice n oogonium is there, which is diploid in cell. It is go under the process of cell division, mitosis occurs, and it will form the primary oocytes. So during the fetal development, meiosis 1 begins but stops in prophase. Now here the meiosis 1 occurs. At puberty, the primary oocytes completes the meiosis 1, which produces the secondary oocytes and the polar body for that may or may not divide again. This is the polar body. Polar body is going to be formed at 2 or 3 times. So especially it occurs at 2 times. So here when there is formation of primary oocytes, it will form the polar bodies, and it will also form the secondary oocytes. The secondary oocyte is formed at puberty only. In early days, before puberty, at the teenage, at the age of 10 or at the age of 9, there was only primary oocytes in their body of female. At the puberty, the meiosis 1 occurs. The diploid cell is going to be divided into 2. That first is polar body, which only contains DNA, undergoes the degeneration, and secondary oocyte. It is the part which is responsible for ovulation. The secondary oocyte begins meiosis 2 but stops in metaphase. And when the ovulation occurs, when the secondary oocyte comes out from the ovary, from the follicles, so when it joins with the sperm, then the meiosis 2 will continue. The secondary oocytes is ovulated and it will join with the sperms in the fallopian tube, and after that fertilization will occur, and after fertilization it resumes the meiosis 2 and the oocytes split into the ovum, and again second polar body is going to develop. Here the second polar body is there. This polar body contains only the genetic material, but it is not having the main characters, all the chromosomes which are there. And here the both N, 1N and 2N, both are the haploid, will join, they will produce the diploid cell, and it is called as zygote. The nuclei of the sperm cell and the ovum unite and forming the diploid zygote. It is called zygote, and this zygote again divide into 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells, and they will form a blastocyst, and that blastocyst is going to be attached to the uterus, and that process is called as implantation. So in this fashion the oogonosis is going to be occur. Now the history of oogonia. A fetus oogonia divides to produce millions by the mitosis, but most degenerate under the process called atresia. Atresia is the default natural process of degeneration when the cell itself killed. So that process is called as atresia into the female genita. As I already told, almost 2 millions of the oogonia is there in females, but remaining all are go under the process of atresia. Automatically they will degenerate. Some develops into primary oocytes and stops in prophase at the stage of 1. Almost 2 lakhs to 2 million present at birth. At birth they will present almost 2 millions or 2 lakhs, that depends on the numbers at a time, but 40,000 remains at puberty. So at the age of 16, 14, when the menstruation occurs, 12, 14, 16, these are the 3 ages where the menstruation occurs, and lastly it occurs at 18, but normally at the age of 14, 16 is a very common age when the menstruation occurs. And when the first time female is having menstruation, that process is called as menarche. MENARCH, menarche. Menarche is nothing but the age or the process when the female is having first time menstruation. And in all the foreign countries, this time is going to be celebrated, but in India it is supposed to be bad things, not good things, which is very, very wrong. So menarche. So out of them, the 40,000 remain at puberty. So when the puberty occurs at the age of 14, 16, female is having almost 40,000 of that oocytes or oogonia into them, but out of them only 400 is going to be mature. Why? Because from the 15 to 45, at 45 menopause occurs. What is menopause? When the stopping of menstrual cycle occurs, that age is called as menopause, and menopause occurs That depends on females, that menopause occurs normally at the age of 45. Sometimes it may occur at 42 also, sometimes it may occur at 50 years also. And from that age, from that time, the innervation of the hormones like estrogen and progesterone are going to be decline, because it's going to be rise in case of menstrual cycle. And also another problems can be arise after the menopause. Each month the hormone cause meiosis 1 to resume in the several follicles, so that meiosis 2 is reached by the ovulation. Penetration by the sperm causes the final stage of meiosis to occur. Now we will discuss regarding the ovarian cycle. In each month the ovarian cycle is occurs. Normally the ovarian cycle is of 28 days. 28 days. 5 days after at day 14 the ovulation occurs, after again 14 days are there. It can be divided into 4 parts. In that menstruation part, after that pre-ovulatory part, ovulation phase, and the post-ovulation phase, also called as secretory phase. So there are role of various hormones that one should know. First 2 hormones are there which can be secreted from the pituitary gland, LH and FSH. And also there are another 2 hormones which are secreted from the gonad, from the ovaries. It is estrogen and progesterone. So there are 2 hormones which can be other secreted by these ovaries. It is called relaxin and inhibin. The relaxin is the hormone which is responsible for relaxation of the uterus, especially when the implantation occurs. Due to the contraction, implant doesn't occur. So to maintain it at stable position, relaxin is going to be secreted from the ovaries. And also this relaxin is responsible for the childbirth. For childbirth, it relaxes the os of cervix, opening of cervix, due to which the baby will come out easily. That is also another role of relaxin. And inhibin is the hormone which controls the secretion of hormones, which secretion of estrogen and progesterone. All the hormonal changes occurs, ups and downs of hormones are occurs in this menstrual cycle. But menstrual cycle must develop at the menarche. If it doesn't develop, that process is called as amenorrhea. amenorrhea. Amenorrhea, when there is loss of menstruation, it is problematic condition. It can be developed due to the imbalance between your hormones from pituitary as well as from your gonads, problem into your hormones. So definitely you should go for the gynecologist. You should consult immediately and go for the treatments for drugs. And this menstrual cycle is also one of the example of negative feedback mechanism. Suppose if the message will go toward the brain that there is less estrogen, immediately it will secrete the LH and FSH and will give order to the organ to release the estrogen and progesterone from the gonads. So each month the FSH stimulates premortal follicle to grow and mature. The FSH is responsible for development of the follicles. Premortal follicle will contain the primary oocytes. The primary oocyte can be surrounded by these premortal follicles, and they will develop into the Graafian follicle. These follicles are nothing but the granular cells, stroma cells they are producing. The ovulation, the release of egg, the egg will be released from here, from the follicles, Graafian follicle or mature follicle. Egg will come out, it will expel. Luteal phase, the corpus luteum produces the progesterone that maintains the uterine wall. If fertilization doesn't occur, the corpus luteum degenerates. It degenerates within 2 weeks into the mass called scar, called corpus albicans. Actually, the corpus luteum, what is corpus luteum? Corpus luteum can be affected by So as we are discussing regarding the luteinizing hormone, the word indicates its meaning, its symbol. It is for corpus luteum production. So in ovaries it produces the corpus luteum and it releases the hormone estrogen and progesterone. So at the time of ovulation the LH is too much high. It is responsible for corpus luteum production and it is also responsible for ovulation, and it is also responsible for increase the level of estrogen as well. So that type of hormonal balance and imbalance occurs. So here the progesterone will increase, but here during ovulation the estrogen is too much. Now here we will discuss how there is role of hormones. So first of all, there is role of gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus, GHRH. So it will release from the hypothalamus and it will give rise to the secrete the LH and FSH from the anterior pituitary, and FSH stimulate ovaries, and also it is responsible for growing follicles. Premotor follicles is get converted into the primary follicles and secondary follicles and tertiary follicles. Tertiary follicles is nothing but the Graafian follicle or mature follicles. They are the covering, external covering of these oocytes, primary oocytes, secondary oocytes. So the initial secretions of estrogen by growing the ovaries follicles. The LH is the luteinizing hormone, as we already discussed, for corpus luteum production. Luteinizing hormone, don't forget, mind it well, corpus luteum, luteinizing hormone, fix in your mind. It is responsible for ovulation, and this LH is also responsible for corpus luteum, which is secretion of progesterone, estrogen, relaxin and inhibin by corpus luteum. And the further development of ovarian follicles and their secretions of estrogen, progesterone and inhibin. So they are responsible for various activities. These hormones are having key role. Now we will discuss one by one which hormone is responsible for which activities. First we will start from the estrogen. It promotes the development and maintenance of the female reproductive structures. Means for the development of the adipose tissue, fat on the breast, on the hip part, on the pubic symphysis, at the part of labia majora, at the part of hip, at the part of thigh. So whatever the over fat deposition is there, in case of female more fat is there. The male is having percentage of fat is 45 to 50%, but in case of female it is 55% fat is there. So that's why the fat due to the estrogen. And also it feminizes the secondary sex characters and breast. For the breast development, definitely the role of estrogen is there, and it is also responsible for development of sexual desire, sexual urge. Estrogen is responsible. It also increases the protein anabolism. That's why after the menopause the females are having problem regarding their bones, hip bones or joints of bones. So there are problems regarding the bones because demineralization of bones occurs. The minerals is regained in our bone only due to the estrogen. If estrogen is in our body, it maintains it regulates the minerals into your bones, especially calcium, phosphates, the magnesium. So these are the elements which control your strength of your bones. And also it is responsible for protein anabolism. It strengthens your bones, strongness of your bones, proteins. It lowers the blood cholesterol. That's why when up to the menopause, after the age of 40 or 45, females body looks very thin or normal, having a typical figure, but after the age of 40-45 figure has been lost. Why? Due to the loss of estrogen, because estrogen is try to control the cholesterol in our body. If cholesterol is controlled, definitely over fat deposition is going to be lost. So the normal structure of female is going to be maintained by that estrogen hormone only. So over cholesterol deposition is not allowed, it will degraded by the estrogen. Moderate levels of inhibit release of GN means gonadotropin releasing hormone, FSH follicle stimulating hormone, and LH. So it can be maintained by this estrogen, because I have already told you the negative feedback mechanism function work here. Now the same mechanism is there when we are taking the oral contraceptive pills. What is contraceptive? What is contraception? When we are having child birth control, it is a child birth control device. There are various devices like the oral contraceptive pills is there. After that, copper T is there. After that, we are using the various condoms, vaginal draughts we are using, and also various elements. We are also doing the various operations, surgical operations, when we are removing the ovaries or we are cutting that fallopian tube. In case of males also, we are doing the vasectomy as a contraceptive measures. So here, when you are taking any contraceptive pills, it contains the analogs of estrogen and progesterone. When it go into the blood, it reaches into the central circulation, it gives messages to the brain, to the hypothalamus, that it signalizes that the blood estrogen is high, and due to that, what brain is doing, it give order to the pituitary to less secretion of LH and FSH, and due to which what it give order to the organ to less secretion of estrogen and progesterone. What is the ultimate effect? Ultimate effect is there, it will disturb the menstrual cycle. It won't allow for the production of secondary oocyte simply, and in this fashion the contraception occurs. It interferes with the menstruation, it interferes with the ovulation, the development of the structure or the surface of the uterus doesn't occur, that stratus functionalis doesn't going to be formed, which is required for the implantation, isn't it? So in this fashion it works by the negative feedback mechanism. Next is progesterone. It works with the estrogen to prepare the endometrium for implantation. So here the progesterone is having great role for implantation. So it works with the estrogen for implantation. What is implantation? When the blastocyst, when the zygote is get converted into the blastocyst, and that blastocyst is a round structure and it stick to the wall of the uterus, that process is called as implantation, and it helps into the implantation. If implantation occurs, immediately there is a release of human chorionic hormone, human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. So that hormone is responsible for signal for pregnancy. It is the symbol of pregnancy. When you are testing the urine of female and it shows that hormone, human chorionic hormone or human chorionic factor, so it indicates that the female is pregnant. So it prepare the breast to secrete the milk also, especially progesterone. Progesterone I have already told. Progesterone along with the oxytocin, they are ejecting the milk from the breast of female. It inhibits the release of gonadotropin releasing hormone and LH. Relaxin is, it inhibits the contraction of uterus, as I already told. It make stable to the uterus, it of a smooth muscle of uterus, due to which the implantation is easy to do, and also during labor it relaxes the pubic symphysis and dilate the uterine cervix. Uterine os is going to be dilated for the normal childbirth, and inhibin, it inhibits the release of FSH and to the lesser extent to the LH. Especially it decreases the release of follicle stimulating hormone FSH. In this fashion there is a role of various hormones that one should know before going to study the menstrual cycle. Now it is easy to understand the menstrual cycle to you. Now here we will see all the phases of menstrual cycle. In that, first is here, first 5 days are there for menstruation. This is the menstrual cycle. When the bleeding occurs, actually what is the bleeding? It contains the epithelial cells, it contains the stratus functionalis, it is the upper layer of endometrium. Endometrium means uterus upper layer is there of endometrium, which removes the cells is going to be completely removed, and it come out along with the blood. Along it is more vascularized cells. So blood vessels are also coming along with that, and they are coming outside. Lots of bleeding is there, and it is essential. If normal bleeding is there, means your development is a complete cell is going to be developed and are removed. If complete if bleeding occurs normally, bleeding occurs for especially for first 3 days, heavy bleeding is there, and after 4th and 5th day drop by drop is there. Sometimes no any bleeding occurs at 5th day and 4th day also. It continues up to 3rd days, and a drop by drop occurs. In some females only drop by drop the menstruation occurs, which is not good one for their health. It should flow should be normal, and menstruation is there. It is for 5 days, and it is also called as menses or periods. And the events occurs in the ovaries. Under the influence of FSH, several premodal follicles develop into the primary follicles and then into the secondary follicles. This developmental process may take several months to occur. What are the events in uterus? Menstrual flow from the uterus consists of 50 to 150 ml of blood. So that much, at least 50 ml blood should release from the body. It contains tissue fluids, mucus and the epithelial cells, and shed from the endometrium. This discharge occurs because the declined levels of progesterone and the estrogen stimulates release of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are nothing but the autocoids. They are responsible for the contraction. So they are doing the contraction of our uterus, which is responsible for release of that menstrual flow, and also it causes the uterine spiral arterioles to constrict. As a result, the cell they supply becomes oxygen deprived and start to die, and these dead cells are coming outside. Eventually the entire stratum functional is immediately removed, and at this time the endometrium is very thin and becomes 2 to 5 mm only, and only the next layer, that is stratum basilis, is remain there. Now the second phase is called pre-ovulatory phase. This is a phase before the ovulation. Here ovulation occurs at day 14. From day 1 to day 5 it is menstrual phase, and from day 6 to day 13 there is pre-ovulatory phase. Try to understand the days also, on which day what happens, and on which day what is the position or level of your hormones also. So here the estrogen and progesterone level is very less. Now from this period the levels of estrogen and progesterone is start to rise. Here the estrogen will start to rise, and due to which in here the premodal follicles are there. They are very small. They are developing the primary follicles, and here they will start to develop the secondary follicles. Now here in this pre-ovulatory phase, which will start from the day 6, is the time between the end of menstruation and the ovulation. The pre-ovulatory phase of the cycle is more variable in length than the other phases and account for most of the differences in the length of cycles. The event in the ovaries. Some of the secondary follicles in ovaries begins to secrete estrogen and inhibin. By about day 6, a single secondary follicle in one of the two ovaries has outgrowth all the other becomes dominant follicles. Estrogen and inhibin secreted by the dominant follicles decrease the secretion of FSH, which causes others less well developed follicles to stop growing and undergo atresia. Normally one dominant secondary follicle becomes the mature Graafian follicle, which continues to enlarge until it more than 20 mm in diameter, means its size will go up to the 20 mm. So 20 mm is nothing but the 2 centimeter. It will go up to size of 2. It will start from 1 mm to mm, and it will go up to the after that it will go to the 8 mm, 10 mm, and finally it will reach up to the 20 mm. In normal females it will reach about the 20 mm in diameter, and it is ready for ovulations. Now with this ovarian cycle, the menstrual and the pre-ovulatory phases together term as a follicular phase, because the ovarian follicles are growing and developing. In the uterus, the estrogen liberate into the blood by growing ovaries follicles, stimulate to repair the endometrium, because in the menstruation already the endometrium has been degraded, damaged completely, because the layer has been removed. So here the process of repairment has been occurred. The cells of status bacillus undergo the mitosis and produce the new status functionalis, and the endometrium thickens, short, straighten, the endometrium glands develops, and the arterioles coil and lengthen as they penetrate the stratum functionalis. The thickness of endometrium approximately doubles to about 4 to 10 mm. With reference to the uterine cycle, the pre-ovulatory phase is also termed as proliferatory phase, because the endometrium is proliferating. Proliferation occurs, development of the endometrium occurs, that's why it is called as proliferative phase. 9. And at the day 14, due to the release of gonadotropin releasing hormone, it releases that hormone and from hypothalamus, and the release from the pituitary, it secretes the hormone LH specially. LH is responsible for ovulation, and due to this the ovulation occurs at day 14. It is called ovulatory phase or ovulations. So the secondary oocyte will come out from this Graafian or mature follicles. So that day is called day 14. This is the day of ovulation. Mind it well, on which day what process occurs. So at the ovulation, the rupture of this Graafian follicle occurs and release the secondary oocyte into the pelvic cavity. After it will go into the uterine tube. It is go to the fallopian tube for the fertilization process. The release of secondary oocyte in the pelvic cavity usually occurs on day 14, and during ovulation the secondary oocyte remains surrounded by the zona pellucida and zona radiata. So there is only zona pellucida and zona radiata remains there. The ovulation occurs due to the high levels of estrogen, and there are various points that we should discuss regarding the ovulation. A high concentration of estrogen stimulates more frequent release of GHRH, means gonadotropin releasing hormone, from the hypothalamus, and it also directs stimulation of gonadotropes and the anterior pituitary to secrete LH. The GnRH promote the release of FSH and additional LH by the anterior pituitary, and the LH causes the rupture of mature follicle, Graafian follicle, and expulsion of secondary oocyte about 9 hours after the peak of the UH surge. So whatever the LH surge is there, means LH hormone is at the peak level. Within that 8 to 9 hours, it will do the expulsion of that secondary oocyte from the Graafian follicle, and the ovulation. And the ovulation cycle and its corona radiata cells are usually swept into the uterine tube. Means they will immediately go to the uterine tube. They will do swimming and they go toward the uterine tube for the fertilization purpose. Now after this, the next phase, it starts from the day 15. That phase is called as secretory phase. It is also called as post-ovulatory phase. It is after the ovulation, that's why it is called as post-ovulatory, and it is also called as secretory phase. The post-ovulatory phase is of the female reproductive cycle is the time between the ovulation and the onset of next menstruations. Especially occurs from the day 15 to the day 28, and again cycle continues. So what happens in ovaries? After ovulation, the mature follicle collapse, and the basement membrane between the granulosa cells and the theca interna cell break down. That theca interna and theca externa has been developed, so theca interna is going to be break down, and once the blood clot from the minor bleeding and the ruptured follicles, the follicle becomes corpus hemorrhagium. Corpus hemorrhagium means the blood is there, so it is called hemorrhagium. The theca interna cells mix with the granulosa cells as they all becomes transformed into the corpus luteum cells under the influence of LH. Within the reference of this ovarian cycle, the phase is also called as luteal phase. Later, the event in the ovary that has ovulated the oocytes depends on whether the oocyte is fertilized or not. If it not fertilized, so whatever the secondary oocyte is there, it go under the process of atresia, and within that period it will degenerate if it doesn't fertilize. And again the levels of the progesterone, estrogen and the inhibin decreases, and release of GnRH and FSH and LH rise due to the loss of negative feedback suppression. So here the negative feedback mechanism is here. So earlier it was high, due to which now it will decline, and as it will low down, after that the menstruation occurs. Means this ovulatory post-ovulatory phase give rise to the menstrual phase due to the over decreased level of progesterone, estrogen, LH and FSH. And if the suppose the ovum is fertilized, it will develop into the zygote. It begins to divide, and the corpus luteum passed into the for normal 2-week lifespan. It is rescued from degeneration by the human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. It is also called as HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. This hormone is produced by the chorion of the embryo beginning about 8 days after the fertilization. Means after the 8 days it is going to be fertilized. So like LH or HCG stimulate the secretory activity of corpus luteum and the presence of HCG in the maternal blood or urine. It can be immediately depend, it can be indicated by the test when you are taking the urine sample. What happens in uterus? In uterus, the progesterone and the estrogen produced by the corpus luteum promote the growth and culling of endometrium glands and the vascularization of the superficial endometrium and thickening of endometrium to about 12 to 18 mm. It's too much when it is going to be fertilized, if it is fertilized, because the secretory activity of endometrium glands which begins to secretory glycogen. This period is called as secretory phase of the uterine cycle. These preparatory changes peak about 1 week after the ovulation. At this time, fertilized ovum might arrive in the uterus. If fertilization does not occur, the levels of progesterone and the estrogen declines. So whatever the levels are there, it is going to be decline. From here it is going to be decline, and the degeneration of the corpus luteum will occur, and withdrawal of the progesterone and the estrogen causes menstruation. So when the hormones levels is going to be too much decline, too much less, which give rise to the menstruation. If it is at the high level or moderate level, the menstruation doesn't occur. It will never occur, but it will go to the decline level, then it give rise for the menstruation. So in this fashion, the menstruation cycle again repeats. Cycle repeats and repeats and repeats and again till menopause occurs. So from the day 1, from the age of 12, from the menarche, and up to the age of 45 to 50, up to the menopause, the process of this menstrual cycle continues for 28 days. Sometimes the 28 days may vary, it will become 30 or 26 or 27 also, but naturally try to attain 28 days cycle. So in this fashion we have discussed this ovarian cycle. This is very, very important. Try to understand, try to see my video again and again to understand the concept. It is very easy, don't get confused and don't get panic, and try to get that knowledge regarding this menstrual cycle. It is very important, and try to understand, because this contains all the things. It also contains the ovulation, and also contains the what is the role of Graafian follicle, what is the role of oogonesis, how this oogonia is going to be developed. So that all depends on the hormone, and that depends on the proliferatory phase, the uterus developments, and the breakdown of that uterine levels, uterine layers. So all these things we should know. What is the what is temporary layers? It is called stratus functionalis. What is the permanent basalis? So that all the information you will get from here, and lots of MCQs can be developed from this video. Okay, so thank you very much for hearing me. See you then. So here again you can see how the hormones are increase or decrease. So from the day 1, FSH is going to be declined, FSH and estrogen also going to be declined during this menstruation, and from this phase estrogen start to rise, and LHS is very high during the ovulation, and after the 8 hours of LHS rise peak, the ovulation occurs, and after that, after ovulation, it will decline and decline and decline till the next ovulation occurs, and again the estrogen level is decline and it will again increase, and progesterone also going to be increased. Only case when there is the fertilization occurs, it will increase and it will develop the layers. If it doesn't occur, again it will decline. The progesterone as well as the estrogen going to be declined, and finally the decline levels of all the hormones give rise for the menstruation, menstrual cycle, which go for 5 days. So in this fashion the ovarian cycle we have discussed. So thank you very much for hearing my lecture so cautiously, and increase my like, increase my video, increase my view as much as you can, and subscribe my channel. Thank you. Bye.